Once again, our government bullies are trying to silence the people that are holding this government accountable. I will not be bullied. Definitely won't be silent. And we need to be able to hold these government officials, these politicians accountable. Larry and Rita challenged me, roll the tape, right? Prove it, Mr. Bradley, prove it. So here we go. Let's prove it to you. First of all, here is our policy within the school district. These are all available online, right? Let's actually back up a step. Here's the Auditor General's report on 2013, Auditor General's report on 2015, and the most recent. Right? Multiple times, this Auditor General has spanked this district for being less than trustworthy. And on this case, we're just going to go with the word policy, right? And it's going to say the board did not even comply with its own policy, right? They're not even following their own rules. So here's our policies. Here's one that says members shall be appointed by the president. This is committees. Who the president shall be an ex officio member. We should have 3 board members on these committees at least. He stacked these committee members. He made himself a member so he can outvote anyone that wants to hold this government or their subordinate administration accountable. It's a tactic. Evil, right? Here's another one. Committee meetings are to be called by the committee chairperson. So there obviously is a chairperson that's supposed to be running these meetings, not the subordinate superintendent. Here you go. This is our talk about attendance. And this will come up in this meeting where they're trying to silence everyone and then just shut it all down because Dave's going to ask the tough questions, right? So this says that an official, which would be myself, should be able to interact as if I was present at the meeting, right? I don't understand why they don't read their own policies. I don't understand after 1, 2, 3 times being told by the Auditor General to stop it, that they don't. Let's try to hold them accountable. Let's take a look. I took some excerpts here, and let's take a listen to this, and you'll kind of get an idea.
I am, JJ.
Yes, I can see it now.
This is Rita and Larry entering the meeting and asking the superintendent whether or not they can see what the superintendent is sharing on his screen. So obviously the superintendent is running this meeting.
I lost the window. I have 3 different monitors, and it was hidden under something else that was going on my system. Work was getting in the way, put it that way.
Sorry.
And again, it shows that Larry struggles with being able to be competent enough and responsible enough to run these meetings. Or he's just choosing not to. But let's find out who's running the meeting. Here I go. Apologize. Let's move on. Running this meeting, is it still Jonathan Cleaver running the meeting, or are we letting a board member administer this meeting?
It's the same as it always been, Mr. Bradley.
Well, why don't we start? Why don't we comply with our own? Wait, why don't we comply with our own LASD policy? Why don't we let the board member, who's accountable to the people, run the meeting so that the subordinate superintendent that has access to this mute button that causes to silence people not have that authority, and we should not abdicate our authority to run a lawful meeting to this individual that has been proven to be untrustworthy.
We're continuing to follow PSBA guidelines on how to conduct our Zoom meetings, Mr. Bradley, and we will.
PSBA.
Mr. Bradley, that is how we're going to run the meeting. If you choose to participate, that's fine. If you choose to make a fuss about it, you don't have to participate.
That'd be silencing a duly elected director. And PSBA is a private organization separate from this government agency. All right, you're going to hear a couple beeps while I transition from section to section. I cut this meeting up. So the point I'm making is PSBA is a separate organization. That'd be like asking Walmart whether or not we're allowed to do something, right? It's their own corporation, separate from our school. We could take their guidance. It's like PIAA. It's like these other private corporations. We can actually listen to them if we so choose. But as a government agency, the hierarchy of this process is the stakeholders have a right to speak and address their government. And then after we decide what policies, the government decides what policies to have and write through direction from the stakeholder input, policy 001, policy 011. These policies require us to seek this input from the, let me get this on there. These policies require us to seek input from the stakeholder. Seek input, not dictate input, seek it, ask them, right? So this is the problem that Larry has. He's following a private corporation lobbyist, abdicating his authority as a duly elected official. He's preventing people from holding him accountable, and he's blocking public comment. In a Sunshine Act required meeting where you have an agenda and make this board accountable to the public, where the public has access to their government officials. So let's go back to this for a second.
Policy 122 under extracurricular activities.
Excuse me, we're still having this conversation.
No, we're not having this conversation. We're trying to bring this conversation up every time, and that's not the way we're running our virtual meetings, Mr. Bradley.
I understand, Mr. Stern.
No, you don't understand, because if you'd understand, you would stop contesting how we're doing it. We're doing it in a perfectly fine manner according to the law.
But according to the Pennsylvania Auditor General, you are not doing it.
Don't start with the Pennsylvania Auditor General's report of 2021. Please don't start with that.
Why not? It's very evident. It's very evident.
No, it's not evident.
It is evident that
they did not cite how we run meetings, and they did not cite how we run virtual meetings.
But they did cite how we did cite how you.
Me, yes, me.
You,
I am
as the president,
and you, who as a duly elected director,
correct, are not following our own policies. And whereas our policies state, and this is a policy committee meeting,
okay.
Our policies.
Mr. Stern,
please do not.
No.
The heightened policy 120.
Every time it always happens, and it's.
Well, let's go over this for a second. So, what's actually happening here is you have the superintendent apparently providing cover for the lack of Larry's acceptance of the Pennsylvania Auditor General's report, where this board, going back for the years that he was on this board, budgets, not following policies, not following your own policies. It's immoral. When they took an oath, they said that they were going to uphold the law. When they failed to comply with the law, one of those two things has to be a lie. So either lying Larry Stern's taking an oath, or lying Larry Stern's in his meeting not following his own policies that were written by this own government. We're politicians. We're government officials. We're held accountable as public servants, right? He doesn't get to decide which ones he chooses and which one he doesn't choose, the way Rita has described it in the past. So let's go back to this and see what you get.
It's always the same thing. So we're going to have the meeting the way we normally have the meeting. I understand.
But you're going to get the same results,
your paperwork.
Larry. You're going to get the same results.
What?
You're going to have the same lack of transparency, the same truncation,
no.
the same Mr. Cleaver cutting people off.
No, we're not. If you could conduct yourself in a professional manner, sir, we would not have any issues. You can state your case. You have your time to state your case. It's not a free-for-all that you can state your case 15 times in 15 different ways and get away with it. That's the way it's supposed to be.
So basically, Larry's using his bully pulpit to try to shut people up. He just doesn't want to hear it. He doesn't want to hear that the Auditor General said, you broke the law. Non-compliance with Pennsylvania School Code, a law under our Commonwealth. He doesn't want to hear that there's students that were injured within our school and need to be reviewed so that these policies under extracurricular activities can be properly administered so we can protect our students. We need to protect these students. We have issues within this district because these public officials, in my opinion, have abdicated their authority without oversight and have not decided to have these things vetted and checked and reviewed by public officials. And more importantly, the fact that we're a public servant, the people should have the right to join in these meetings. When they silence everybody, of course no one shows up to these meetings, right? There's no reason to go show up to a meeting if you know when you get there you're not going to have a chance to say anything. Be truncated. Now let's listen to the arrogance that comes out next.
Thank you.
Yeah, to be
Policy-
lawful.
Mr. Cleaver, can you please continue?
Yes,
Wait, I'm going to
policy
state, hold on, I'm going to
122
state my case.
and
Mr.
123,
Stern, I'm going to state my case.
Policies are recommended.
Mr.
based
Cleaver
off-
can talk over me if he'd like, but this case that we're going to
Both
state is the fact that
policies
the Auditor General
are
said we should follow and
recommended for
comply.
legal-
with
Mr.
our own-
Bradley, you're
I'm
talking
stating
over
my case,
Mr.
Rita.
Cleaver.
No, he's talking over a duly elected director.
No,
That's
no,
part
no.
of the committee, part of the government,
Please silence yourself, Mr.
part
Bradley.
of the government that we are dealing with. Duly elected government official. Let's make sure we understand what's happening right here in this meeting. The Auditor General
What's happening,
told-
Mr. Bradley,
Please
is
do
trying
not
to
stop.
conduct a
Give me the
meeting,
floor.
and
Give me the
you
floor. Let me
are
state my case and then
interrupting.
you can
You're
go on.
disrupting a public
Give me
meeting.
the, give
That's
me
what
the
you're
floor.
doing.
No, I'm part of the meeting.
You had to, no,
cannot
no.
disrupt. I would.
You're
I-
disrupting a public meeting.
No, sir. No,
Yes.
sir. I'm part of the committee. I
Policy-
will
It's,
bring both right.
it's being recorded, so
Give
just
me
so
good.
you know.
Give me the floor. Give me the
Policy
floor.
122 and
Give me the floor.
123.
So we're going to take a look at this for a second because these guys don't understand apparently that they're government. They have to follow certain rules. They can't use their bully pulpit against other government officials. We have every right to listen to our stakeholders, take it to this meeting, and everyone that gave me the information about first offense, second offense, third, and all the problems they have with these policies that are ambiguous need to be discussed, need to be vetted. They need to be done in a policy meeting where people can just have an open conversation. A little less formal than a board meeting. Speak your mind. But let's take a look at this. What they missed, this understanding is, here is the Pennsylvania law related to the Sunshine Act. And it says, an agency, the body, and all committees thereof authorized by the body to take official action or render advice on matters of agency business. So when we look at a committee meeting, when they make recommendations, let's do the first reading of this policy. Let's recommend that we move it to the second layer. These are actions of government. This is rubber stamping and pushing it through if they don't review these things the way they're supposed to be reviewed. So this is your government failing to understand that this committee is part of the government. And that's when Larry, I don't know who advised him or why he does it, but when he stacks these committees with people of the same five, the Fib Five as they've been called, right? The people that have lied to the public when they swore their oath that they were going to honor all these laws and rules. And then the Auditor General says, you're in non-compliance. And the Auditor General says, you didn't honor your own policies, your own thing. They should listen to that advice. That's an impartial person. That's not Dave Bradley saying it's bad. That's an Auditor General with a team of people coming in, reviewing with Larry, Wayne, Steve, Rita, and Nathan, our illustrious treasurer that voted against giving board of directors bank statements. What's going on? The corruption is apparent. The corruption is deep, and it's being held cover by the verbose superintendent. Thank you. Let's take a look.
These recommendations that are there, you can see that the additions are in green.
Give us a second.
Guilty.
Sorry.
This-
Mr. Cleaver, I am talking to the government, not you.
No,
we're
I'm
talking to-
clarifying.
I'm not talking to you. No, I'm not talking to you.
I know
have
it's
no
hard to
position in this.
accept that you are
You
in
don't
fact
understand. No,
incorrect.
you see, you don't understand because you've been running this district from the back end for so long. You don't understand. We have a police force. We have a protocol. You're going to see it come up in the next couple meetings, in the next couple policies that we're going to review, where we have interaction with our local police department, where we have interaction with our police department internal to this school that has the arresting authority for certain offenses, right? We do have to deal with this. This is our policy. So I would really respectfully submit that stay out of it, Mr. Cleaver, until such time that the government talks to
Mr.
the
Bradley,
people.
you do not
Please,
have the
Councilman.
right to tell me.
I do
No,
have the right
no,
to tell
you
you that
don't.
you.
No.
I
Mr.
do have the
Stern,
right
I'm
to
not
tell you
gonna
to
sit
stay
here
out of it.
No,
this
no,
You
week.
don't
we're
need to sit
not-
here. You personally can leave this meeting.
Go ahead.
That's
Go ahead.
allowed. But right now, the government has an assigned meeting. We have an agenda. The government, the politicians in the room, are the ones that
I have never stated I'm not a politician.
You're a lying politician too.
Okay,
But
move
the
on,
reality
move
is you
on,
got-
move
you
on,
can slam
move
the
on.
table, but
Move on.
no, you don't move on. We're
Move on.
talking
Yes.
about
No, we're
first
moving
offense.
on.
We're moving
I'm
on.
going to continue.
You can put your case in email, sir.
No, I'm
because
not putting
you
my
don't
case
have-
in email.
no.
I'm
Then
having
don't
a
do it.
conversation. I'm
Then
having a
don't do it.
conversation. Larry, I'm having a conversation.
That is not a
So-
conversation.
It is. We have a
No,
first
it's not.
offense issue.
Maybe
Hold on,
it's
just
how
give me an
you
answer.
talk to your friends, but it's not how I talk to mine.
Policy
You're definitely not my
120
friend, Larry,
Well,
so
that's
it's okay.
good. I can certainly
But
tell
my
that.
point
Policy
is,
123,
you're a horrible politician. The point is,
again,
the first
you can
offense.
see-
Please don't truncate me. We're having a conversation.
Please,
about offenses.
Mr. Bradley,
If
you're
your skin is
disrupting
so
a public
sensitive
meeting.
that
You're
you cannot
disrupting a
accept,
public meeting.
if
Again,
your
we're
skin
going
is
to
so
move
sensitive,
on as
if your
requested.
skin is
You're
so sensitive that
disrupting
you
a
cannot
public
accept the
meeting.
Auditor
You're
General's
disrupting a
report,
public
Policy,
meeting.
Mr.
please,
Bradley,
you
can
don't have a
please-
chance to bully me over. I'm not going to be bullied over. Notice that they don't want to hear about this Auditor General report that says you broke the law, right? Non-compliance with Pennsylvania school code. You didn't follow your own laws, which are laws at the local level, which are created by a district government that you have to follow. These people aren't above the law. They shouldn't be, at least. They're public servants. They have to write the law, hire an administration. That's what this whole setup is about, right? So above here is our stakeholders, you guys. They elect a board. We write these policies, these rules that everybody's going to follow, and then we hire this superintendent to administer these rules. Top cop, right? Underneath him, we have police force and other stuff. He has other staff. He has a business administrator. So he has to be held accountable for what he does. So anytime he blames subordinates to him, he should recognize that it's his responsibility to make sure that these policies that the district has created, right? Because he's subordinate to us, the buck stops with us, the government agency, to hold him accountable. And it's almost impossible when he won't even have a conversation or openly review these policies. And these policies are serious. These are serious offenses. Drug offenses are serious offenses. They should be reviewed. Let's take a look at how they really don't want to hear it from me. They really don't want to have any objectivity. And I know I get beaten up and I got to stand in there and fight the good fight. They need to resign. And this next clip, you'll understand why. But let's take a look. Or take a listen, I should say.
Are, Mr. Cleaver, so I say we just put them on for first reading at the board meeting.
That's so
Because
rude,
we're
Rita.
not going to get anywhere
The people know,
tonight
the people-
unless
you have to let the people
Mr.
speak.
Bradley does not have his usual audience. So I don't know who he thinks he's playing to.
You,
but
Rita,
this
the
particular
government.
audience
My
doesn't
government should be listening
care.
to the other government
This
officials.
government agent doesn't care what you have to say. So, as far as I'm concerned, I have gone over the policies. I've asked my questions of Mr. Cleaver today, and I'm comfortable just putting them on the agenda for November for a first reading.
And once again, here's our rubber stamping Rita, right? Here's our rubber stamping Rita. Get in there and we're just gonna rubber stamp it. No changes made. No review. I read it. I'm good with it. Just a tip, we're going to stick it in the board meeting. First reading only. We can always change it later. We can always kick this can down the road. We don't have to do it. These are the problems that we have within this district. This is what the Auditor General said. They don't have any foresight. They don't plan. They don't have a 5-year budget. They don't look forward. This is the arrogance of Rita Spinelli that I fight on a regular basis. She has a right to speak. She has a right to her opinion. She doesn't have a right to ignore the law. She doesn't have a right to silence other people or try to truncate the conversation regarding a policy prior to its implementation. Those public, that stakeholder is who she has to seek information from. So let's hear Larry's arrogance. This is just, if you listen to that diatribe of I don't care what you think and what you, How shallow and arrogant can these people be? They didn't even review them. We're talking about offenses. You're talking about drug offenses.
I agree with you, Mrs. Spinelli. I have read them as well. So at this point, Mr.
You don't care what I have to say, Larry?
I really don't.
Why don't you care
No,
what I have to say, Larry?
nobody
I'm a duly
does.
elected official, just like you.
But you know what? You don't conduct yourself as a duly elected official.
I do. I'm telling
No,
you that
no,
in
I
our
don't think you
district,
do.
we've had trouble.
So I have a first and a second. We're going to move
we had
these to
trouble
the
with
first
following
reading
our own
on the
laws,
next
right?
board meeting, Mr. Cleaver.
Now,
Is
I
there
want
any
to have a
other
conversation.
business on the
If you want to
policy
leave the
meeting?
meeting,
I have
you
none.
leave the meeting. But
And
I'm going to review
I'll
these
take
policies.
a motion
you do
to
not have a
adjourn.
right
Do we
to
have any
boycott.
comments from the attendees?
Yes, I'm making a comment. You do
No,
not have the right.
no.
Hold on.
I
You do
have-
not have the
I
right to
can-
close this meeting. It's still a committee meeting. You can leave, Larry, if you want. You can resign. That's good by me. Rita,
there-
same with you. If you're going to rubber stamp, just get out of the way.
There's no comments.
Don't bother being a board member because you took an oath and you're
Then we
not
can,
honoring it. And again, here we are bringing up this hierarchy, this basic standard civics lesson. The government scheduled a policy meeting and told the public, we're going to review this policy, these 4 policies, and vet them prior to going to a board meeting. We're going to do the work here in this committee meeting. We're going to look at every word, check every law that they're going to create for these people to have to follow. And if you don't follow this new law that we're going to create, we can punish you. We can punish your students. We can punish your kids. Right? It's not right the way they're doing it. They're supposed to be reviewing it. They're supposed to be having a conversation. That way we don't have the issues where we have unsupervised students inside of a middle school that later get in front of a judge because they were unsupervised. And apparently Wayne Wentz, Steve Holland, in the athletic committee meeting, failed to hold the administration accountable to common sense. Common sense. Read the policy. Look at it before you pass it. Don't kick the can down the road. Don't pull a Larry, I read it too, we're going to pass it along. Unethical, irresponsible. Don't neglect your duty as a duly elected official that says, I'm going to uphold the law. And in this situation, one of the laws we're supposed to uphold is that we write the policy. We review it. Not the PSBA, not anybody else. Your duly elected officials. After they seek your stakeholder input or their stakeholder input, as a public servant, will either add a new law onto your kids or add a new law onto the school. They make up this committee meeting. They make up the government. It's a government authorized meeting. Sunshine Act. Requirements.
I have a first and a second to adjourn the
No, you
meeting,
do not have a first and
mainly,
second to adjourn.
mainly
There's no
due to
vote to
disruptive
adjourn. It's a
behavior
corrupt-
by
It is
Bradley.
it
Thank
is
you
a
very much for
policy
everyone in
meeting.
attendance.
It
We
is a policy
apologize.
meeting.
Have a good evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.
And once again, good old Lion Larry Stern and Rubber Stampin' Rita push the responsibility off of themselves. Do not hold themselves accountable. Do not review or open-mindedly listen to all the different opportunities. In this situation, we were talking about drug offenses. They have a first, second, and third offense and how it's being applied. And that should be reviewed. It's very important, very critical for our students to be able to have an opportunity to, quote, make a mistake as a kid and move forward. Please. And also, we have a police force within our district. Let's think this through. If we had security guards within this district, they would act more like a parent in protection of and support of a student. A police officer has an oath of his own to uphold the law. His responsibility is to arrest when he sees a violation, and not necessarily what we need a security guard for, preferably armed security guard, to protect our students from external, outside perpetrators. When their perpetrators are within the district, we should be protecting them. We could hire 5 times the number of volunteer security guards to protect our students so that these problems don't happen. We don't have unsupervised students. We have a little bit of adult supervision. We don't have the Lord of the Flies issue, Wayne. We don't have the Lord of the Flies issue, Steve, where you fail to make sure that these kids are supervised and an adult is in the room. Heck, we're having a committee meeting, and Larry doesn't apparently understand how the law works. No wonder the Auditor General chastised him, admonished him, and spanked this district. And they didn't learn their lesson. They really should learn. Thank you very much.